Number 8, the World Series that was for sale. In 1919, the Chicago White Sox were the best team in baseball and also among the worst paid, a combination with predictable chemistry. 8 players agreed to lose the World Series on purpose for about $5,000 each, financed through gamblers connected to New York's most famous fixer, Arnold Rothstein. The signal that the fix was on, the first pitch would hit the batter. It did. The Sox lost, the gamblers cleaned up, and several of the players were never even paid. Because the one place you can't report a theft is to your co-conspirators. A jury acquitted all 8 men. Baseball banned them for life anyway, invented an all-powerful commissioner specifically to do it, and has spent the century since checking everyone's phone records. $5,000 a man to buy the most famous sporting event in America. And here's the uncomfortable part. It's the smallest thing this video will buy. It only gets worse from here. Number 7, the teapot that broke a government. In 1921, the United States Navy kept emergency oil reserves underground for the next war, one of them beneath a Wyoming rock shaped, allegedly, like a teapot. Albert Fall, the Secretary of the Interior, quietly transferred those reserves to his own department, then leased them to 2 oilmen friends. No bidding, no announcement, in return. One friend sent his son to Fall's ranch carrying a little black bag, containing $100,000 in cash. A loan, everyone insisted. Interest rate 0, paperwork none. In total, Fall collected around $400,000 and became the first cabinet member in American history to go to prison for a crime in office. Now the best part, the man who handed over that $100,000 was tried too, and acquitted. Of paying the exact bribe Fall was convicted of receiving. Money that was legally received but never legally paid, a physics problem American law has decided not to look at directly. For a century afterward, Teapot Dome simply meant corruption. Then somebody finally beat the record. It took 100 years, and it's later in this list. Number 6, the state where every politician was for sale. In 1795, land speculators wanted 35 million acres from the state of Georgia, most of present-day Alabama and Mississippi. Negotiating seemed slow, so they simplified. They bribed the legislature. Nearly every member who voted yes had been given shares, cash, or land in the deal. History records one legislator who refused, mostly because of how alone he was. Georgia sold the land for $500,000, about 1.5 cents per acre. When the public found out, the outrage was biblical, literally. The next legislature repealed the law and burned it in the town square, igniting it with a magnifying glass, so the fire would come down from heaven and not from anything as corrupt as a match. It didn't work. The speculators had already resold the land to innocent buyers. And the Supreme Court ruled in a landmark decision that a sale is a sale, even a purchased one. The federal government eventually spent over $4 million cleaning up a $500,000 crime. Heaven's fire, it turns out, is non-refundable. Number 5, the company that bribed the world. In the 1970s, the American aerospace company Lockheed had excellent airplanes and a sales strategy to match. Bribery, not a bribe, a program. More than $20 million across a dozen countries aimed as high as money can go. In Japan, roughly $2 million reached the sitting prime minister, shortly before a major Japanese airline developed a sudden enthusiasm for Lockheed jets. He was arrested in his own country. In the Netherlands, over $1 million went to Prince Bernhard, the Queen's husband, who lost his uniforms, his positions, and most of his mystique. Italy, West Germany, the receipts kept surfacing in parliament after parliament. Lockheed's defense was, in essence, that this was simply how airplanes were sold. Congress found that persuasive in the worst possible way. And in 1977 passed the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, the law that founded the entire modern anti-bribery industry. Think about the achievement. One company bribed so thoroughly, so internationally, that bribery itself had to be regulated. Nobody frames that resume. Number 4, the king on a foreign payroll. In 1670, King Charles II of England signed a treaty so secret that most of his own government never learned it existed. The other party, Louis XIV of France, England's rival. The deal, England joins France's next war and Charles announces his conversion to Catholicism. Timing, flexible. In exchange, Louis would pay, not England, Charles, hundreds of thousands of pounds. Plus a wartime subsidy, a private salary from a foreign king to the King of England. To protect the secret, the ministers who couldn't be trusted were handed a fake version of the treaty to negotiate, and they negotiated it, line by line at length, unaware the real one was already signed. Charles took the money for years. He joined the war as promised. The conversion, though, he kept rescheduling. He finally delivered it on his deathbed. 15 years later, at a point where there was very little France could do with it, which makes Charles the only man in this video who took the bribe and substantially kept the goods. Historians call it diplomacy. Louis's accountants, presumably, called it a subscription that never shipped. Number 3, forgiveness for a price. In 1515, a German nobleman named Albrecht wanted to be Archbishop of Mainz, the most powerful church office in Germany. Problem, he already held 2 bishoprics, which was against the rules. Fortunately, the rules had a customer service department. For tens of thousands of gold ducats paid to Rome, the Pope waived the problem. Albrecht borrowed the money from the Fugger banking house, and to repay the loan, he received a license to sell indulgences. Official documents reducing your time in purgatory, cash for salvation. Half the proceeds went to build St. Peter's Basilica. The other half went quietly to the bank. The sales campaign came with a jingle. As soon as the coin in the coffer rings, the soul from purgatory springs, and it was performing very well until a monk in Wittenberg heard it. He posted 95 objections on a church door. His name was Martin Luther. What followed, the Reformation, a century of religious war, and a Europe split permanently in 2, all downstream of one man's career move. It remains the only loan repayment plan in history to break Christianity in half. Number 2, the army that stood still. In 1757, the British East India Company, a corporation, faced the Nawab of Bengal in a mango grove called Plassey. The company had about 3,000 men. The Nawab had around 50,000, so the company's commander, Robert Clive, skipped the military problem and solved the personnel one. He bribed the Nawab's own general, Mir Jafar, with the best offer anyone in this video receives. The throne itself, when the battle began, Mir Jafar's wing of the army, most of it simply stood there, watching. A rainstorm soaked the Nawab's gunpowder. The company had covered theirs. By evening, Bengal, the richest province in India, belonged to a corporation. Mir Jafar got his throne minus the treasury, which the company helped itself to. Clive personally collected a fortune so large that when Parliament later demanded an explanation, he declared himself, quote, astonished at his own moderation. Britain ruled India for the next 190 years, all of it starting with an army that was paid very specifically to do nothing. Regular viewers will recognize the strategy. It remains undefeated. Number 1, the empire sold at auction. In the year 193, the Praetorian Guard, the Roman emperor's own bodyguards, killed the emperor. Again, he was their second that year. But this time, instead of picking a successor, they had a genuinely innovative idea. They put the Roman Empire up for auction, publicly. From the walls of their camp, there were 2 bidders. Inside the camp, the dead emperor's father-in-law. Outside, shouting his offers up at the wall, a very wealthy senator named Didius Julianus. Julianus won at 25,000 sesterces per guardsman, years of salary for every single soldier, the largest signing bonus in history. He was declared emperor that evening. It went badly. Crowds jeered him in the streets. 3 generals marched on Rome at once. The Senate, reading the market, condemned him to death in 66 days after buying the largest empire on earth. Julianus was killed in his own palace, reportedly still asking what exactly he had done wrong. The new emperor's first act was to fire the Praetorian Guard, so the biggest bribe in history bought the entire known world. For 9 weeks, no refunds were issued, and after last video, we know what a good purchase looks like. This was the other kind. One last thing, every story in this video began the same way, a small payment, a quiet nod, and history bending. We are legally unable to bribe you, so consider the free option. The like button costs nothing, subscribing costs nothing, and if this video proved anything, it's that the cheapest transactions have a way of changing every